Welcome to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show, hosted by Mason Kern. He keeps his nose to the ground to report on what's trending in professional and college sports, to inform, enlighten, and entertain. And now it's
the Sports Watchdog.
The Sports Watchdog, Mason Kern.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060 Phoenix. I'm Mason Kern here with you every Sunday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. and obviously I'm certainly glad you decided to join me this morning, and as always I do have some great stuff in my kennel. Today we'll be hearing from Lomas Brown, the former NFL offensive lineman and 7-time Pro Bowler, as well as Callum Robinson, a professional lacrosse player. I'll also be covering some sports hot topics, and for you basketball-specific fans, interesting happenings on the Hardwood. Now we're going to do a hyper-localized version of Sports Hot Topics in this week's show because the Arizona Diamondbacks just finished up their final home game at Chase Field in downtown Phoenix. Now, the Diamondbacks did not make the postseason. They were eliminated in recent weeks, but that didn't stop them from trying to put a dent in the NL West race. They were facing the Los Angeles Dodgers, who obviously are in contention for a playoff spot right now with the Colorado Rockies, among others, in the NL West. It's a pretty heated race right now, but in the last home game at Chase Field for this season, the Diamondbacks came out after a horrible month of September baseball, come out and they beat the Dodgers 7-2, put a huge dent in their playoff race as they try and lock up the number one seed in the NL West. And the Dodgers really just didn't play their variety of baseball, whereas the Diamondbacks came out and played like a completely different team than they had been for the entire month of September. Now, I was there at the game. Pretty incredible stuff. 3 home runs. Socrates Brito hits a dinger. You have A.J. Pollock getting a career high in a season in home runs for him. He hit his 21st. He's entering free agency this offseason. And also David Peralta hit around a 449-foot home run as well in the win. Now, after the game, here's what Torey Lovello had to say about beating the Dodgers.
Yeah, I'd feel like you're trying to get me in trouble, aren't you? I know that. No, we look. The Dodgers they were the team that won the NL West last year. They've done it for several years in a row. They were the National League champions and went to the World Series. So it's a good marker to see where we're at. So yes, it's the Dodgers, but it's the reasons why I just outlined, that they're a very successful franchise, especially over the last several years, and we want to go ahead and play good baseball in those environments. But if any other team was in here doing it, I feel very strongly that this group would have rallied around one another to make something happen as a consolation.
Now, like I said before, A.J. Pollock did hit his career high in home runs with his 21st home run against the Dodgers in the final home game. And it could be his final home game at Chase Field in a Diamondbacks uniform. So here's what he had to say about his upcoming free agency period.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the way you want to go out. I definitely took a couple moments of, reflecting. You never know what's going to happen in this game. I'm extremely grateful, for my time here. I love Arizona. I've been here, it's been home for me for many years, and this organization, I've been here for almost 10 years. So it's a lot, and I just a lot of people here that I really appreciate, and you never know. We'll see what happens.
Now, although the Diamondbacks are eliminated from playoff contention, it's nice to see them win a baseball game against a good Dodgers team who may or may not be in the postseason this year. All right, everyone, don't go away. The Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060 Phoenix will be right back after this short break.
If you're losing your hair or notice that it's getting thinner, listen closely. You can do something about it without messy lotions or drugs. Now you can get clinically proven hair growth results at home with the Hair Max Laser. Hair Max delivers nourishing laser light energy to stimulate hair growth right at the roots. It's FDA cleared, recommended by doctors, and best of all, it has an amazing 93% success rate in clinical studies in both men and women, so you can be sure it works. Use it just 3 times a week and experience new hair growth, increased density, and healthier, fuller, more attractive hair in just weeks with a 5-month money-back guarantee. Now, for a limited time, save 15% on your HairMax order at hairmax.com. Type in code RADIO at checkout or call 1-800-9REGROW. That's hairmax.com, code RADIO, or 1-800-9REGROW. Experience real hair growth and save 15% with HairMax.
Hey there, everybody. You're listening to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060 Phoenix. I'm your host, Mason Kern, and joining us now on the line is Lomas Brown, the former NFL offensive lineman. Lomas played for 18 seasons and was selected for 7 straight NFL Pro Bowl teams. He's best known for his 11 years playing for the Detroit Lions and was the lead blocker for one of the game's greatest running backs in Barry Sanders. He played in 2 Super Bowls, one for the New York Giants in Super Bowl XXXV, and the other in his final season when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won Super Bowl XXXVII in 2003. Currently, 45 former offensive linemen are in the Hall of Fame, most of whom were lead blockers for star running backs. Lomas is seeking to be the 46th induction. Today, he's a radio game analyst for the Detroit Lions games on WJR AM 760 in Detroit, and he's the Director of Community Relations for the Michigan-based company Lightning Technologies. So Lomas is here today to share some info into his football past and what he's been up to since. So with that, hey Lomas, welcome to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show. So glad you could join us today.
Hey Mason, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you very much. How are you doing?
Good, Mason, good. Enjoying some nice weather in Michigan, so I can't complain.
Now, there you go. That's always wonderful. Now, first off, I kind of want to just get into your background. How did you kind of get started playing football in the first place?
Well, it's a funny thing, Mason. Actually, I was in the band, and my first day of high school, went to high school, signed up for classes, was coming out of the auditorium, and someone called me, turned around, it was the principal. He came up to me and asked me had I signed up for varsity sports. I said no. He grabbed me by the arm, took me back in there and signed me up for varsity sports. And Mason, it was the last class of the day, and I found out that it was football he signed me up for. So not wanting to disappoint the principal, I went out there and, you know, as they say, the rest was history. Just fell in love with the game, and the game the game has been great to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a cool story considering, I mean, that means playing in high school, then making it all the way to the NFL, and playing for so long, having so much success in the NFL, kind of reaching the peak. Like I said, 7 straight Pro Bowl seasons and appearances. So when you kind of look back at your 18 seasons in the NFL, what are you kind of most proud of?
I think, you know, I'll look at my longevity, you know, looking at being only I'm the second, only one other lineman has played more games than me in the NFL, and that was Bruce Matthews. You know, so I'm proud of that. I'm proud of blocking for Barry Sanders, who I consider the best running back ever. Right. You know, being able to block for a guy like that. And, you know, and like I say, just proud of being able to stay in the NFL over 3 decades and being able to enjoy the game that I love. Because, you know, I think maybe me starting later, Mason, maybe that might have contributed to me playing longer and, you know, just like I say, just enjoying the game and never wanting to give it up until I really had to. So, you know, it was wonderful to me when I was playing it, and it's been wonderful to me in my post career.
And I mean, you speak about that longevity. I mean, in football now, it feels like a lot of players tend to retire early versus having such long careers because, I mean, and the sport of football is just a dangerous sport in and of itself, and the league is trying to create a bunch of new rules now, as I'm sure you know. So what about the issues that the NFL kind of struggles with today in CTE and all these rule changes to make the game safer?
Yeah, and you're right, Mason. It is a dangerous game. And these young guys seeing, you know, when you have about 20,000 ex-players that are in a concussion lawsuit, right. You know, these guys that are playing now, they see that. These guys want to be able to play with their kids when they retire. They want to be able to remember things, you know, so they see what happens to us. So, you can expect these guys not to play as long and not to put their their body and as much physical harm. But they don't really have to, Mason, because of the equipment nowadays, because of how they're teaching the game nowadays, because of how they're regulating the games with the new rules and everything. I think it's as safe as it's ever been right now, and I encourage any young person, even my 19-year-old son, he has a partial scholarship at a D3 school in Indiana. Awesome. He plays defensive tackle. So, it's safe now. So, the game teaches you so much. That's why I have no problem with young people playing this game and loving this game, because it is a great game. But these young guys, they see what happened to a lot of us guys in the past, and believe me, these young guys, they're smarter these days, and they have more options, I think, than we had back in the past.
Right, and to kind of piggyback off that, the league is really trying to make the game safer with all the rules that they're implementing. And now, I also understand that you did have a stint with the Arizona Cardinals as well, our local team here in Arizona. So what do you kind of remember most about your playing days with the Cardinals?
Well, the thing I remember the most is, I think we were the first team to win a playoff game when they came back to Arizona, right. If I'm not mistaken, back in 97, 98. So, and Arizona was kind of similar to Detroit, a team that was kind of on the bottom, a team that wasn't well respected by the other teams because of, not winning a lot. So, I left Detroit and came to Arizona, but I'm just proud of the way that we started turning that culture around in Arizona. And like I say, proud that we were one of the first teams to bring a victory to the desert. But they've just taken off now. I mean, I just think they've grown by leaps and bounds since I was out there back in the 90s. And, they're a team that has to be contended with. But, again, think about it. When I was there, they were in Sun Devil Stadium, so they're in the nice, pretty stadium in Glendale. So it's just so many things that have changed since I was out there. But I'm proud to say that I was part of the change that came to the desert.
Right, yeah, and I mean, considering you guys kind of kick-started that period of success, I mean, I guess that's pretty cool too. Now, I mean, you've kind of tried your hat now at a bunch of different things: NFL player, broadcaster, business kind of executive. So, what advice do you give to young people then who kind of want to follow in those footsteps and kind of go about achieving their own dreams?
So that's what I tell them, Mason. Right. Those are your dreams, your goals. Establish your dreams, your goals. Don't let anyone else tell you what your dreams or goals should be. Establish what they are, what you want to dream or goal, your dreams to be. I don't care how big they are. They're your dreams. That's what's going to keep you driving. And then the other thing I tell them to do is post it so they can see it. Because a lot of times we have a tendency of writing down our dreams and writing them somewhere, and we can't visually see them. And, when you go through your tough times, if you don't see your goals, it's hard to realize why you're doing it or why you're going through these tough times. So I tell them, post it somewhere where every day you can see these goals, or it's something that's going to remind you, because you are going to go through tough times. Everybody does. I don't care who you are and stuff. It's just how you respond to them. So that's why I try to keep it simple with the kids, basically.
Yeah, that's some really good advice, too. I mean, it's true. Everyone does go through adversity, but it's kind of how you respond. I like that a lot. Now, lastly, Lomas, as a Detroit Lions broadcaster now, I mean, not the greatest start to their season, but that last victory over the Patriots, what are you kind of seeing out of the squad this year, and then what are your kind of expectations for them as the year progresses?
I know, man. That was so unexpected for
right.
them to beat the Patriots, but we were happy about it. But our thing, Mason, they got to follow it up, I think, with a victory against Dallas. Because to me, a victory against Dallas will really solidify that New England victory. Dallas isn't playing that well right now. So if they could just get this victory, then they got a tough game against Green Bay, then the bye week. If they could get to the bye week with maybe another win or two, I think they get themselves a little healthy during the bye week. And as Coach Matt Patricia has said around here, he expects his team to start taking off in November and December. That's when his team start playing well. So that's what we're expecting. So if we can kind of keep the boat floating until November and December, then I think the team is going to really take off. So I'm looking for big things, especially with a coach coming from New England with his pedigree. I'm looking for big things.
Right, and that win over New England, I guess, was just the tip of the iceberg, I guess you could say. Well, Lomas, thank you so much for your time. We're running out of time here. So where can our listeners go to connect with you?
Well, I'm on Twitter. I have my Facebook account. I have my foundation, Lomas Brown Jr. Foundation.org, and then WWJR. They get the app. They can listen to the big guy every Sunday trying to broadcast out there.
Well, there you go, guys. Make sure to go check him out. Thank you again so much, Lomas. All right,
Thanks,
everyone.
Mason.
Yeah, thank you. All right, everyone. The Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060 Phoenix. We'll be right back after this.
If you're ready for a boast-worthy staycation, the AAA Four Diamond Hermosa Inn, located in Scottsdale's Paradise Valley, is for you. This luxury hotel offers authentic Arizona character and charm. Its 43 newly renovated casitas are nestled in a garden setting with breathtaking views of the lush desert and Camelback Mountain. Most accommodations include deep soaking tubs, beehive fireplaces, and private patios. Other property features include a lively bar and communal seating areas, on-site painting classes, free-use beach cruisers, seasonal poolside yoga, hot tub facilities, a business suite, and dining to die for. The Hermosa Inn is an ideal locale for small group getaways, from weddings, intimate family vacations, and bachelorette weekends, even golf outings, board meetings, and executive retreats. And its award-winning on-site restaurant, Lawns, is renowned for globally inspired Arizona fare, complemented by a subterranean wine cellar. You can see amazing photos of this and much more at hermosainn.com. That's hermosainn.com.
Hey there, everybody. You're listening to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060 Phoenix. I'm Mason Kern, and joining us now on the line is Callum Robinson, a current professional lacrosse player in the NLL for the Colorado Mammoths. Callum has also spent time on the Atlanta Blaze and the Chesapeake Bayhawks. So Callum is here today to give some insight into his professional lacrosse career, as well as what else he's up to at the same time. Hey, Callum, welcome to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show. So glad you could join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mason. Excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, thank you again for taking the time. So first off, for those who don't know really how the professional game of lacrosse works, I understand like college lacrosse is so big, but I understand there's two kind of different leagues in professional lacrosse. So can you kind of give us a background of how the league actually works?
Yeah, so I'll rewind a little bit. There is two leagues. So there is the professional outdoor lacrosse, the field lacrosse that you're probably used to seeing at the collegiate level. And then there's also a professional indoor lacrosse, which is really big, sort of north of the border. It's played in an ice hockey rink-sized stadium, 5v5, as opposed to the field game where it's a bit more wide open, 10 players on each side at one time. And then both those leagues sort of have a collegiate recruiting system where you can get drafted coming out of college, the opportunity to go and represent those teams. They play at different times of the year. So it is possible to play both leagues full-time, as I'm doing currently. But yeah, both the leagues are certainly on their way up and transcending as we see the game of lacrosse sort of pick up and develop and spread throughout the U.S.
Right, and yeah, you mentioned kind of the recruiting for those athletes out of college, and I really feel like lacrosse as a whole is just kind of growing. That sport is really trending upward, especially here in North America. So can you kind of talk about the growth of the sport as a whole?
Yeah, certainly, and I mean it's why I continue to remain around the sport. It is growing exceptionally right now. I think they are the fastest growing sport coming out of high school. I know in the last decade that the recruiting classes coming out of high school have seen an increase well above, the top three sports that we're really competing with in baseball, football, and soccer. So the sport is definitely developing. We think that, sort of the idea is that in the next, 10 to 20 years, we hope to put it on a platform whereby, people can make this their full-time job throughout the year. There'll be enough of a viewership. There'll be enough of a following throughout the country as we see this sport transcend from the Northeast, where it's been so built up and so popular in the last few decades. Now it's spreading west, spreading south, and definitely throughout the Midwest too. We're seeing exceptional growth in states out there, and just the quality of the game as a whole is just continually climbing as we see the youth participation grow throughout the country and continues to do so. Right,
and in terms of you personally then, Callum, how did you kind of get started into this sport? What's your background?
Yeah, so, I'm from Perth, Australia. So I moved to America shortly after my 21st birthday. I played 3 years of collegiate lacrosse at a college up here in Baltimore called Stevenson. So my story is, definitely atypical. I came across very proactive on my behalf, trying to get recruited college-wise over here, and then was lucky enough to get an opportunity with Stevenson University. And from there, it was just sort of one foot in front of the other, and made the team, made a starting position. We were a very successful collegiate program, went on to win a national championship in my first year. And, from there, after my collegiate lacrosse career was done, I got picked up in the draft to play professional lacrosse. And that's sort of what's happened now with the NLO, which is the National Lacrosse League, the Indoor Box Lacrosse League. Same thing. They've had a couple of expansion franchises come in this year, 2 new teams. So the roster spaces have been shortened, and it's a great opportunity for people like myself who have been so heavily involved in field lacrosse to now sort of cross the border and get involved in what is termed box lacrosse and give that a go too.
Right, yeah, it seems like there's so many different facets that people can kind of take part of in this sport. Now, I also understand that you played in the Lacrosse World Cup in 2018, so can you kind of talk about that experience?
Yeah, certainly. So only a couple of months ago now, in July, the World Lacrosse game moved over to Israel, and they hosted the tournament at a city out there called Netanya. We had a record of 46 countries competing in the world, and they segment it based on divisions. So they'll have the top 6 countries playing, and then they'll sort of stagger the divisions down and down and down based on the previous World Cups rankings. And everyone has an opportunity to win a medal. And Australia, who I represent, obviously, we've been very fortunate to continue our lacrosse success. We backed up our 2014 World Cup performance with another 4th-place finish, narrowly being edged out of a bronze medal by 2 goals to the Iroquois nations. But yeah, it's great to see a community of lacrosse players, not just within America, but from across the globe, gather in one centralized location and really just showcase their love for the sport and also, more importantly, I think how the sport is not only developing in America, but across the world too. You continually see the quality of lacrosse throughout the best nations and also the nations who are playing catch-up continually grow, and just the quality of the sport and how it's being played, it just shows a great, great sign for the future of lacrosse.
Right, yeah, and especially with so many different countries competing, that really just does go to show how kind of widespread this sport is really becoming. Now, again, personally for you, can you kind of talk about your development in the sport? I mean, obviously going from Australia to then going to the collegiate level, playing for Stevenson University, and then now, like I said before, playing 2 seasons with the Atlanta Blaze and then with the Chesapeake Bayhawks, and now in Colorado. Can you kind of talk about your development as a player and then outside of just the sport as a person as well?
Yeah, certainly. And I'll go back to that sort of atypical development that I had coming across from Australia. The people who grow the sport at home and are involved in the sport are very passionate about lacrosse. We don't necessarily get the same education and coaching that's available over here for, say, in America.
Right.
So my development was certainly, I had a lot of the physical intangibles and the athletic abilities. I have really had to hone in my lacrosse knowledge and my lacrosse education and really be a student of the game. I was very fortunate to fall into a program at Stevenson where we had plenty of good coaches that offered that support. And then continuing on to the next level too, it's another jump up, it's another rung up the ladder. So I got involved collegiately. I was drafted to the Chesapeake Bayhawks. I played there for 2 years. And after season 1 of only playing 2 games and then backing up the next season and starting my first 14 contests. It's just every sort of minute that I was able to be involved with the best guys in the world and the best coaches in the world and have all the facilities that we do get thrown at us. I think my game just keeps growing and growing and gets exponentially better and better. And now making lacrosse my full-time job, so between playing 2 professional seasons and coaching full-time, I think just being immersed in the sport almost 100% of my day, I really see my personal development just keep climbing and climbing and climbing. I continue to be a student of the game. I soak up as much knowledge and as much wisdom as I can, and there's plenty of people out there who's willing to partake in sharing that wisdom and knowledge. Fortunate enough, with the Chesapeake Bayhawks moving down to Atlanta for the last 2 seasons and started every regular season game for the last 2 years, and really just saw my lacrosse continue to grow and grow and grow. And I think as that happens, you have a lot more fun playing the sport, and it's sort of a scratch my back, scratch your back sort of thing. I've always been a big believer in the sport, in that the more you give to it, the more it's going to give back. And I think, since I made it my job, I'm coaching, I'm playing, I find that the sport has been very rewarding to me in my on-field performance and in how I've sort of grown and developed as a player and continually got better and better, and I continue to do so. So the new opportunity now is playing the indoor league. Similar game, but very different at the same time. So I'll stick to my guns. I'm going to go in as a student and soak up as much as I can and sort of adapt and change as I go. And hopefully my knowledge and my athleticism will prevail, and I'll be able to contribute to the team this year coming up in the season starting just before the new year.
Right, and I think that's kind of what you're saying. That's kind of the most important aspect as an athlete, just kind of being a student of the game. Well, Callum, we're running out of time. Thank you so much. Where can our listeners go to connect with you?
Yeah, my biggest sort of social media presence is on Instagram. My name, Callum, Callum, the number 10, and my last name, Robinson. I certainly have a presence there and do my best to reply to as many kids and interested folks as possible and do my best to pass the game on to the next generation. So if people want to contact me, by all means, shoot me a message on Instagram. I'll be more than happy to reply and get in touch.
Well, there you go, guys. Make sure to hit him up on social media. Thank you so much again for your time, Callum. All right, everyone, the Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060 Phoenix. Will be right back after this short break.
If you want more hassle-free air travel, get the AirHook, a 2-in-1 solution for airplane travel comfort. Not only is a stable drink holder also a secure mount for electronics like a cell phone or tablet, it also easily attaches to the tray table in a locked position as an anchor, so you don't need a tray table laying horizontally across your lap, resulting in maximum leg room. Find it at theairhook.com.
You ready to hoop it up?
This is Happenings on the Hardwood.
All right, everyone. As always, at the end of the Sports Watchdog Radio Show, you're on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060 Phoenix. We're going to pivot on over to the Hardwood. And this week, in kind of keeping with the theme of our hyper-local version of this week's show, we're going to focus on the Phoenix Suns. They ended training camp in Flagstaff. Devin Booker currently is recovering from right hand surgery. He's been seen at the tail end of practices shooting threes with his left hand. And honestly, it looks pretty wet. I'm not going to lie. The shot, the stroke, everything seems to be going well. But his recovery, there's no timetable currently for his return. You won't see him playing in the Suns preseason games. But they hopefully will expect him to be available toward the beginning of the season. If not the first game, then in the first few weeks of the season. DeAndre Ayton, the first overall pick in this past NBA draft. High expectations for him. It's not really a center's league anymore. He's more of a traditional type of center, but he can truly extend outside of the post. He has a nice shooting stroke from mid-range. Haven't seen much of a three-point game from him yet, but we'll be looking for that as the season progresses, especially in preseason. New additions, Trevor Ariza from Houston, as well as Ryan Anderson from Houston. They'll look to to kind of give some more depth, Trevor Reese will most likely start. Ryan Anderson, I would expect to come off the bench early on. Two good additions there, as well as Mikal Bridges, who they took from the Philadelphia 76ers on draft night. Also, another good addition there. But the Suns, I think, are poised for more success than they've seen in the last few seasons. Isaiah Cannon is back. Tyler Ulis, they let go. So it'll be interesting to see how their backcourt progresses. They took Elie Okobo in the second round of the most recent draft, the Frenchman. He's a point guard as well. They've seen some good things out of him. So they're going to really be looking forward to seeing what this Phoenix Suns team can do, considering they only won around 20 games last year and the year before that. They have not been very successful lately. Devin Booker said they are going to make the playoffs. He is going to lead this team to the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen this year, honestly. The Western Conference is too competitive for this Suns team to make any real impact right now, but I do think in the next few years this Phoenix Suns team has a bright future.
Well, that's a wrap, everyone. Anybody wanting to connect with me, the Sports Watchdog, on Twitter can do so at @SportsWatchdog, and on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as well at The Sports Watchdog. So until next time, keep your eye on the ball.
The Sports Watchdog. The Sports Watchdog, Ace and Kern.